have the internet, of course, in 1987. So how do you project, how do you promote, how do you become the treehouse guy?
I feel that there's got to be a certain connection with nature in that space, which takes you away from...
If I'm so lucky to have another 30 years of being on this earth, I think I'd like to spread this information as much as I can.
Pete Nilsson, the founder of Nilsson Treehouses and a renowned figure in the world of treehouses, has turned his childhood passion into a lifelong mission. Today, he stands as a pioneer in custom treehouse design and construction. Pete is widely recognized as the host of Animal Planet's Treehouse Masters. He's also the author of 6 coffee table books on treehouse construction, including his latest work, Being a Treehouse. Look forward to talking to Pete. Welcome to Luxury Outdoor Living Podcast with Mike
and Trey Farley
of Farley Pool Designs. For over 40 years, we've helped homeowners turn their backyards into personal retreats. And that's why after decades of designing and teaching in this industry, we're here to share our knowledge, helping you navigate the process with confidence.
Every week we break down design, trends, and insider tips that turn your vision into reality. We'd love to have you along for the ride.
Let's build your paradise together. We just read your bio, and so it's really interesting. So tell us something that wasn't on the bio that'd be fun to know.
Well, I was left back in 3rd grade. I remember it was a little traumatic. I thought, I'm trying to figure out where my, why I am who I am, why I am the way I am. And, we all look for, boy, what was it in our childhood that caused us to take a turn one way or another? And, I think I had this chip on my shoulder because I was slow to learn how to read. I'm dyslexic, I'm ADD. And I remember very clearly, this is like yesterday, I was lucky because we moved to Brussels, Belgium, of all places, from New Jersey. My dad opened an office in Europe, and same company he worked for 35 years. But I remember being impressed, thinking recently, as a 34-year-old, he opened up this sales office in Brussels, and I go there, and I'm going to the American school, but it was a Catholic school. That was the English-speaking school, and Sister Mary John sat me down. I had to read in front of her, and she said, "Look, you're doing 3rd grade again." I went, it was crushing, right?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
But thankfully, I was somewhere else, so my friends wouldn't know. Andy and Greg, they had no idea, and so I spent the rest of my life kind of trying to hide that, and then also proving to the world that no, I'm good at something, and the only thing I could find were tree houses, really.
Well, so I understand that you and your dad built a tree house in New Jersey. So is that how the adventure started?
It was. I credit my dad for so much, as we all do. And it's just, he was always into the woods. In fact, he was a forestry major at Syracuse University in upstate New York. And he was always one to want to head out into the woods and explore and have adventures. And in our little tiny house in New Jersey, Ridgewood, New Jersey, there was a three-stem maple kind of next to the garage, and we went up into that about 5, maybe 7 feet. Seemed like a long way up when I was a kid, and built this tiny little tree house. And it was that first taste of having your own place, with your own rules.
Oh, yeah.
And it was great. It was great. In fact, you may remember the pattern of the linoleum that would go on the floors in the late 60s. Remember that kind of red brick?
Yes, I do.
Linoleum?
Yes, I do.
That was it. This thing might have been 6 square feet. Literally tiny little place, but it had that linoleum floor on it.
Well, so you got it finished out pretty nice. So I actually grew up in Toms River.
What? I was there too. You're kidding me.
No.
Toms River. We lived in Toms River when I was like 1 to 3. So
what year?
It would have been 1963 and 4 that I
Okay.
was there.
So we moved to Tom's River in 67. Okay. When I was 4. Okay.
Wow.
And so my dad, we had like 45 oak trees on the property, and my dad built me a tree house, but it was crude. It was a platform with a roof and some windows, and that was it. So, but
Windows. That's better than mine. Windows. I had no windows. I had that nice linoleum, but there was just open on the sides.
yeah, so I grew up reading the Swiss Family Robinson, and the other one was My Side of the Mountain.
Oh yeah, I loved that one.
Where the kid
I loved both.
Yeah. So anyway, so tree houses all, but then at 12, I moved to Lubbock, Texas. No trees. Totally gone.
Wow. So sorry. Yeah, that's tough.
So you moved to like Pacific Northwest, right? At what point?
Yeah, my wife determined that we should live here. I went reluctantly. I mean, it was, I've always heard it's so rainy, and I just thought, oh man, I mean, I need my summer times. And anyway, it was the greatest move ever, because it turns out that, yeah, it does rain here, there's no doubt, but it keeps things green and the trees grow like mad, and it's heaven. It really is heaven on earth in the Pacific Northwest. And I do love parts of Texas, let's just say that, like the hill country. And there's some great trees down there on those beautiful rivers, or do you call them rivers? The Sabinal and the
oh sure, it's wider. It's wider than 3 feet. It's a river in Texas. So anyway,
no, beautiful trees down there where you are in parts of Texas, but then up here it's tree paradise in the Pacific Northwest.
So did you start doing tree houses before the Pacific Northwest, or did that come after you went there? How did the story go?
So I was an economics major at a little liberal arts school in Colorado Springs. I majored in economics for no good reason except to think maybe that's what you're supposed to do with a big, fancy education as it was. But I found myself working with my hands a lot. In the summer times, I would gravitate to projects, like I worked for a carpenter. One of my first jobs, not my first job, but one of them was with a carpenter that showed me how to build decks and put some French doors in the back of the house to get out to the deck. And I thought, God, this makes sense. I had this aptitude, I guess, working with my hands. And so when it was time to think about what I wanted to do, in this time in America anyway, when your parents are saying, look, you can do anything you put your heart to, I think it's really true. And that's a unique time in history to be able to say that with any truth to it, but we were brought up to feel like, boy, if you work hard, you can do anything. And so as I was thinking about what can I do, I love working with my hands. I love being outdoors. As my dad had showed me, the woods are such a magical place. And what if I was a treehouse guy? I mean, are there treehouse guys? And I looked, and no, there are no treehouse guys. The library yielded one book by Anthony Aikman about grown-up tree houses, which was fascinating and all made up, I heard. But such a joyful thought as if I could be the treehouse guy. And that was 1987 when I was 25 years old, all-night brainer. I was so excited. I'm like, what a naive knucklehead to think that there could be a treehouse builder and make, a decent living. And yeah, that was the beginning. And I'll tell you that in a capsule, that what I had to figure out to become this treehouse builder, I had to build a treehouse, not one from earlier in my life, but I'm interested in grown-up treehouses. I mean, I'm 25 now. I want heating at least, and I want some lights, and I don't need a toilet or anything, but a nice cot or something to nap in or sleep. But that fantasy of being the treehouse guy started with a quick hurry-up treehouse in my backyard in Colorado Springs, but it had to be a coffee table book. We didn't have the internet, of course, in 1987. So how do you project? How do you promote? How do you become the treehouse guy? And I thought the quickest thing would be a coffee table book. So I looked high and low around the country, even in other countries, for tree houses. It was a boondoggle, a fun excuse to go to Hawaii, for instance, and look maybe, you get a few leads to see tree houses and take pictures for the coffee table book. And it took 7 years, as things do take 7 years. Anything that's worthwhile, I've noticed.
Yes, sir.
It's a long, long time when you're 25, but 7 years. The book came out in 1994. Houghton Mifflin published it. There was some fanfare. The New York Times wrote it up in their magazine, and it put 6 of my very photographs into the magazine itself. And I was thinking that here I go. I'm on my way. I'm going to be the treehouse guy. And that didn't happen exactly. But the fact is that it was now out there in at least in some people's minds as an alternative to the normal kids' treehouse. And granted, I found a bunch of treehouses that were built by grown-ups for grown-ups, and so it's not like we're seeing this for the first time in 1994. I mean, these things have been part of the counterculture, in the 60s. Lots of great stories around that, like Taylor's Camp out on what was it? That was on Kauai, the Hawaiian island, and other places all over that had those kind of the hippie hangs that were so fun to imagine. All inspired by Swiss Family Robinson, I'm sure. The history goes much further back than that in terms of when we were in trees, and I've gathered a lot of fun stories about that very thing. Tree houses have been around for a long, long time, and so for me to suddenly jump in and try to look at it from now the standpoint of structurally, can we create something viable that lasts and works with the tree? There's so much to learn. And so starting right away in 1987, I found out I didn't know much at all. And here in 2025, boy, we have a body of knowledge now around it. And it's all great news with one important exception: permitting.
Oh, yes, cities. Painful,
but doable. The thing that we love about tree houses is that they're so spontaneous, and they're, it's the amateur that builds the tree house. The amateur, amour, love, maybe a little more love in there than just the fact that you don't know what you're doing, but you've got a great project that typically starts carpenters like myself on their path to building things. But so tree houses have been around forever, but let's put the right size stuff, under the platform to, span, if it's 20 feet or something between trees. And oh boy, that bolt can't be the 5/8 that you can get at the hardware store. You got to think about, okay, what can hold up a 20-foot long beam with let's say an 8,000 or a 28,000 pound structure? Well, there's math, and I mean, it's just fascinating. That side of building, can come into the world of amateur treehouse construction and then be, well, permittable, I guess. Get the engineer to stamp that drawing, and let's put some mini splits in this thing, and have some air conditioning, and maybe that toilet actually isn't a composting, it's a flush toilet. Oh my, wow, that's great. And the thread count could go up a little bit too in the king size bed. I don't know. I mean, queen seems plenty.
That's kind of like
anything. You do anything.
Yeah. I'm wondering, because you said you were trying to make that book and then it happened. Was there a single project along the way through your journey that maybe kicked everything off, where it's like, okay, we're cooking now?
Well, the project that I determined that, okay, this isn't just, the idea isn't just to be, some figure. It's to have a living, like make a living and a career, that happened in 1992 up on Salt Spring Island. And that first book that came out, it was really largely Houghton Mifflin that said, well, why don't we if you wouldn't, consider creating a treehouse that we could do kind of a photographic journey through the beginning to the end. And I got 10 of my best buddies, all in the building trades, to agree to come up, and actually not all of them were in the building trades. I tried to get as many of the guys that I thought would be decent and help come up there with me, and they did. And in fact, as many as I counted, I recall in the course of 10 days, there were 23 people that came through and lended their help. And it was a kind of a life-changing moment, that time where you go, oh my gosh, look, we're working hard in the day, we're creating something artistic. And this tree was extraordinary, 5 feet through at the base, and we built 33 feet up and created kind of a water tower, round 16-foot diameter shingle exterior. We didn't do the roof very well, which led to some trouble, as it always will. Bad roof is a bad project. So, but it was life-changing in that we had such fun up on that beautiful island and that beautiful tree, creating something that we were proud of. And all of us worked hard and played hard at night. We were, 20, whatever. I just turned 30 that year in 92. So I had my 2 little boys that were twin boys, Henry and Charlie. They were on the TV show. And Emily, my daughter, was 2 years old. And we had all our young families with us. And we just created this memory that was that fork in the road for me, and said, let's do this. I want to figure out how to make this, if I could get excited as this, getting up every day, I'm in. I got to figure out a way to do it. And there were a few more of those jobs along the way.
That's awesome. So when you start with a treehouse, where do people start in this process? Do they start with a design? Do they have to have a certain number of trees together? You just mentioned one tree. Can you do it with a single tree? I mean,
yeah. So it's so fun. I mean, this is what I mean by every part of the treehouse process: the design, the finding of the trees, the building. All of this stuff is just pure joy for a lot of us. And that genesis, the moment where you go, okay, I want to find a treehouse, it can be a little daunting, because wait a minute, I've got some trees. I mean, naturally, if you're thinking a treehouse, you probably have some trees. Yeah. We'll go out in those trees to begin, and you will be, once again, I'm telling you, you're going to find those trees almost immediately. It's not like you're going to be wandering around like aimlessly. You're going to go right to the trees that you are going to build in, and you're going to go, oh, well, are they talking to me? No, you intuitively are able to feel like, oh, wait, this is right. And yes, it's multiple trees, unless you have that one in Salt Spring that's 5 feet through and it's crazy and they're rare. Texas has a lot of these trees. It turns out, those cypress trees, the bald cypress, a lot of those big pecans that you've got down there. It's so many great trees all over the country, long living trees, good oak trees. I love a straight up tree, like a telephone pole tree, because it's easier. Okay, let's be honest here. If you go into your woods and you've got a lot of live oaks where the branches are all over the place, you might become confused again. Like, oh wait, Pete said it was going to be no problem, and you get out there and you've got complex trees, and then you've got an interesting problem to solve. If we keep it simple and you go into your woods and it's a standard, set of hemlocks or pines or whatever you've got, ideally you're going to be in a bunch of trees that are long living. Around here, they're the Doug firs, the western red cedars, some hemlocks, although I don't love the hemlocks here in the Northwest. But your trees. Big broadleaf maples here are good trees. There's a lot of deadwood in them, but your local tree, and try to find the ones that aren't going to be, around here. There's the alder, which is that tree that lasts about 60, 80 years, and then it dies, and you don't want to invest a bunch of time in one of those trees that's not going to be around. The hackberry, I know, down in Texas is suspect,
Right.
so find those hardwoods, the Doug firs. That's probably my favorite tree. But if you're lucky enough to wander into your back tree with this inkling of an idea, then I promise you'll find that tree, and you'll want to be in that tree or in those trees. And then the multiple tree setup is 99% of the builds that we do are multiple trees, and so you'll find something that, again, it's always good news. You'll go into the center, say you found the perfect spot. It's got the view of the lake a little bit, but there's privacy, and you go into this little grove of trees, and you'll also notice that, wow, look at in the center of this, there's a big opening here. I mean, the branches all kind of head out towards the sun or the other direction, but look at the envelope, the building envelope that I have to work with, and now, if you trust yourself intuitively, you can go into the phase of, a concept design real quickly. And this, you first celebrate the fact that you found your treehouse location, because you're like, wow, that's working out. And now you get the joy of creating something in your mind's eye, right? You put it on paper. I do this on paper all the time, where you just measure between the trees, you get the diameter. If they're telephone pole style trees, you just get a good diameter, and you can triangulate on your drawing paper. Say I use, well, everybody's using computers these days, and I have to confess, I'm a hand drawing guy, and I get my grid paper. I use the 11 by 16, and I go down to 1/4 inch. That should be plenty scale, and I just do everything by hand, and I build it in that way, very deliberately, very consciously, with my thoughts, that beautiful meditation of design and drawing, and you're in there. Oh, well, okay, more good news is that, what I like to make sure people do is, you can certainly have branches go through and stems go through your treehouse, but it's going to leak if you do that. So I would caution against that. And then again, if it's just a hangout, that you don't mind having the drips come in, probably on your poetry or something you don't want to have get wet, because that's the way that works. But yeah, I'd say don't have any penetrations in the envelope of your building if you want it to be something that you send guests out to for an overnight or something, and you want it to be a nice conditioned space. So by this, then I'm saying you get your trees plotted on your paper to the right scale, and then I'll usually go about, I can squeeze up to a tree maybe 18 inches away, 12 inches if it's tight and you need that space. But, give the tree some space, and then you just basically put, here's my no-go zone. And then you do that around all your trees. And then you have the envelope, what are the parameters of this building that you want to put up there? And is that big enough, or is it too big? Sometimes it's too big. And then you create the platform. That's the starting point in your concept. Here's the platform. I've got two beams, that stick straight out one tree to the next, and there's one over here that I've got. I don't know. I'm getting a little into the weeds here. Forgive me, but the idea is you get a platform up pretty darn easily, quickly. I mean, yeah. Go ahead.
Is it easier to platform lower or higher, or is there a certain height you want to be with a treehouse?
Absolutely. So the higher you're in the tree, the more the tree is moving in the wind.
Yes.
You can absolutely do that, but you might be hanging your platform, say, from cables. And, we've got extra heavy duty hardware these days that could take the weight, high or low. But my feeling, especially as now I'm in my 60s, is, well, I've thought this way for a long time. I don't want to climb 20 feet in the air. Some people don't think that's, legit. You've got to be at least 20 feet to be a treehouse. And I disagree. I mean, I think that you can use your topography sometimes to your advantage. So if your deck is 20 feet in the air, great. But if you're having to climb 20 feet up, that's a ways up, So I love a little, 12-foot climb and work with the topography if you've got it.
Also getting a permit for 20 feet up is especially if you're doing residential in a backyard. They might not like that, especially the HOA.
They may not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. The HOA is another side of this. And I would say there's so many tips I want to give to people that are considering this. But one is if you're in an urban area with neighbors and such, getting 20 feet up in the air where they're looking over their backyard or something is probably a no-go.
Yeah.
But also, even if you're not, it's always nice to talk to your neighbor and let them know that this is what you're creating and hoping that they're okay with, because when the neighbor complains, that's when the building department gets involved, and then on and on it.
You don't want that.
No.
No. So, okay. So it's nice to have something up about 12 feet. And so we build our platform there. And is there a certain size that's like, hey, these are good treehouse sizes? I mean, is it 100 square feet or 200 or 800 or where's y'all's sweet spot?
Yeah. I think my sweet spot, it's funny because I'm looking at, my phone is sitting next to me. It says 351, 351, 350 square feet is a good sized treehouse.
Okay.
So, I can squeeze a decent treehouse into 200 square feet if I needed to. And I've needed to for, those same reasons that the building a department allows 200 square feet or 120 square feet without a permit. So 120 gets a little tight, but, look at the Sprinter vans everybody's got. You can make do with just about anything. But I would say 350 square feet is a pretty good sized treehouse where you can have your separation between, say, your bed area. It's always great to have a bedroom. It's treehouses, perfect place for a nap, let alone an overnight. But yeah, you've got a bedroom area, a kitchenette area, a living room kind of hang. Got to have a deck, of course. Up here, you got to have a little roof over your deck so you don't get wet in that kind of drizzly rain. Just not much. And you can fit even all those things I described into something tighter when you need to.
Right. It's just like tiny houses up in the air.
Yeah. But you're not confined with, going down the road at 8.5 feet wide or whatever that reg is. So, they can be such interesting structures, so fun. And once your platform is up, then you can create whatever you want on top of that. I mean, the hardware we're using it's I don't want to, certified isn't the word, but it's we've gone over to the Washington State and tested this hardware in Doug fir and some softer woods, and you can handle quite enormous weights in the trees. And you've got to allow for the trees to move in the wind. So there's some important techniques that are quite simple and easily understood once you do a little investigation. But if you allow your beams, those two beams that I was describing, you've got to let those move a little bit when the trees are moving in the wind, and when they're growing, you've got the other added consideration is they get fatter. Trees are going to get fatter, and it's hard to believe how quickly they do grow. Some of them in the right environment, they might put a half an inch of wood on every year. Oh, wow. So 10 years later, you've got, that's a lot of wood. Another quick thing to point out is relative to the ground, like once you lock into your tree height, let's say you get up there at 12 feet and your platform is there at 12 feet. When the trees grow, they're not all growing up. That platform isn't moving relative to the ground. You're locked into the heartwood or the sapwood anyway of the tree. And so the tree, as it grows, it's getting greater in girth. It's getting fatter, but it's growing up at the tips. So it's getting taller up above you, and it's getting taller out at the tips of the branches, but your platform is not moving up.
Okay. That's good to know. So to get up to my platform, do people use ladders? Do they build staircases? How do you get up that 12 feet with my 60-year-old legs?
Don't ladders, and especially not a rope ladder, please, people. No rope ladders. They kick away from you. They're terrible. So I say, build a staircase. I mean, come on, the dog's got to come up there. What's he gonna do? You can't climb a ladder. Some dogs can, I think, but no. Let's get a ergonomically correct staircase.
Okay. So we do a 7-inch riser and, build it all the way up. And that way the building departments are happy that we meet code as we go up to our stairs.
Well, we can meet code, and that's what's so fun. And we do 99% of the projects we do, they're permitted. When we're out in Montana, well, heck, there are plenty of places around the country where you don't need permits, which is quite amazing to me. Parts of Texas we built.
Yes.
Same thing. So, but you do want to build it up to code because you want it to be safe and you want it to be long lasting. And so, a normal set of stairs, a normal railing, I don't love the 42-inch railing just because of proportions on a treehouse, but I do a 42-inch railing because that's the code, at least in the commercial stuff and hotel type treehouses, which we build a lot of.
Okay. So we got our platform, we got some stairs going up to it. We're recommended we don't penetrate the walls and the ceiling, and then we can create whatever space we want in there. So what are some really cool things that you would, people do in those spaces?
Well,
besides a bed, got to sleep on the tree.
The puzzle tables, like my kids are all into puzzles big time. Game tables, it's an intimate space. So there's, these are what make them so magical. It's
unique.
I'm not saying you don't have a television in there because nowadays, we put plenty of TVs into these tree houses. And at the beginning of this, that was a swear word in my mind. Like, what? No. But okay, TVs aside, what you're often doing is you're having that time if you've got a loved one up there or anybody up in a space like that, you automatically are in a little more intimate place. So solve the world's problems, solve your own problems, do some communicating and put the phone down. And it seems automatic in tree houses where you do more of that.
I feel that there's got to be a certain connection with nature in that space, which takes you away from, the normal setting and provides you a place of tranquility and peace in that, space. I like you said, it's kind of magical, but I think that's part of the magic, I would think.
Talk about biophilic design.
Yeah, that's biophilic design to the hilt.
Yeah.
Well, it's neat because I had my office in a treehouse. It was very fun. In 1994, we moved out from Seattle to a community about 25 miles to the east, and it's this great piece of ground. A lot of it great woods. That's why I was so attracted to it. Built a treehouse right away and tried to convince Judy to move in with the kids, and she said, absolutely not. We will not be moving. So I made it into my office. And as you were talking about that nature being, connected to nature like that, I spent many years, looking out to see a goldfinch or, a little wren just face to face and sitting on that branch. And it really was a beautiful thing. I mean, being directly in nature like that, you can't help but appreciate it, when you're in it.
It's a different nature that we get to experience too, because you're higher up. You see the squirrels running on the trees, but when you're in the tree and the squirrel's just running around, like it's different. Yeah. It's
different. And good luck keeping those squirrels out of your treehouse because, man, they're crafty, aren't they?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We have 84 oaks on our 3/4 of an acre, so it's a thicket. And it would be I had the perfect place for a tree house, and I planned it in conjunction with my pool, and I was going to have a slide coming out of it.
perfect.
And I told the kids, I was like, the slide's not coming till the grandkids come. And they're like, yeah, whatever. Well, when they were building my pool, only time it's ever happened, the guy that was doing the rock work had a rookie out there, and he ran in to all 3 of my key trees and killed them all.
Oh my gosh.
And so I was just like, well, that ruined
awful.
my tree house.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
I'm so sorry.
yeah, but we because it was going to wrap around the waterfall, and it was all set up anyway. But those trees have since passed, and we'll there might be another place in the yard that we can do something. But anyway,
that's right. You have some other. It sounds like you've got other trees, but damn, that would have been a great one.
Yeah. So now the grandkids have started, and my oldest daughter's like, "Where's our tree house and slide?" So
pressure is on. The pressure's on. I put pressure on a lot of dads around this country.
Yeah, I'm sure granddads step up to the plate too. So, one of the things that's really generated, especially since COVID, is Trey mentioned the biophilic design, but the health and wellness aspect of people just wanting to be out in nature. I'm sure that's driven the treehouse industry as well as we do with all outdoor living spaces.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, we've been extremely busy. I mean, I know since COVID, there was a big uptick in a lot of those more wellness things, and particularly in the hospitality world. So, our business is kind of the one-off. These things, the market that we've seen to find in our everyday business is the one-off. For somebody that's just got to have their treehouse, and it's a high-end product. I mean, this is where we've ended up, and we're grateful for it. The ones where you have to sharpen your pencil, let's say, a little bit more, and do multiple tree houses for this hospitality market it's a different animal. But they've seen this too, that they find that world finds tree houses very attractive. Like, we want to get out in nature, and we want to reconnect with nature and fall in love with nature. So these tree houses are really in demand in that market too. It's a hard one for us to meet with budgets being tighter, I think, in general in that world. But we are still finding work and creating these great spaces.
Well, it makes sense because, like, doing a little research before we did the podcast, I've loved going to like cabins for vacations with friends or family or stuff like that, and then I'm looking at all these quote unquote resorts, but like these places to go to for a destination and these tree houses, and I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, why not spend like a weekend trip in a tree house? It sounds amazing. So it seems like a really smart business idea to do. You see these like bamboo areas in Bali and all over the world. There's different like cultures that have done tree houses in cities and not really cities, but like small towns of tree houses. So it's really cool.
You have
really, yeah. There's a really neat one in Utopia, Texas that has 4 tree houses, and on the Sabinal River. Oh my gosh, with those gorgeous cypress trees and big monster cypress trees and tree houses to match. I mean, there's 4 tree houses at Treehouse Utopia that are opulent, to say the least.
Yeah, that's just west of San Antonio for those that don't know where Utopia, Texas is.
Yeah, they're big.
It's really Utopia too.
Yeah. So how long ago did y'all build that project?
We started, it was kind of a stair step. We were in Lakey, Texas on the Frio River, built a beautiful tree house for a couple, was on the Treehouse show, the Treehouse Masters show. And to celebrate that, we went over to the next valley in Utopia and had a fancy dinner with a great restaurant there, the Laurel Tree Restaurant. And Laurel said, wait a minute, you guys are treehouse builders? Look at this tree. And we built a six top. So in the restaurant lingo, we built a little place for a special dinner at this restaurant in a beautiful big old oak tree, white live oak. And so suddenly we were there in Utopia, and then celebrating that finish, we were down on the Sabinal River and found the most amazing trees. And I said, "Can we come back and just build a few tree houses here?" And they agreed. So that's how we ended up creating those in 2015 through 17.
Okay. So, well, I've got a dream of a tree house. So I'm going to call you and I'm going to have you work up a design. So how long is that? It's like a 6-month project, a 9-month project, 3 months. How long does it take to do a design on a tree house?
It depends.
That's a fair answer, but
when we were, it's always been amazing because we did that Treehouse Masters show, and we would do two shows a month. And that went on for 7 years, essentially. And it was nonstop. I mean, so when there was often an issue, so there's a range here, and this is why I say it depends, because typically, if we're going to do a real comprehensive, fancy treehouse, which is most of them now, it could take 3-4 months to do the design work and the back and forth, and then we have to find a spot in the schedule. But when we were doing the show, I remember one time we had an opening that all of a sudden showed up right after Christmas, and I went to, oh gosh, it was in Texas too, not far out of Dallas, and went Celeste, Texas, and we got there sometime between Christmas and New Year's, and then found the trees, drew the thing. They were excited. We were there, that first Monday of the new year. Boom, ready to go. Built it, and we had 19 film days, so it was done within 3 weeks. So they went from 0 to done in about a month.
Not a common thing today, I'm sure.
No, but you know what? It trained us all in a funny way, and we're all sort of ADHD. We've got the hyper in there, and we want to get them. We get bored quickly, so we go through these things without cutting corners. I'll have you know, but we absolutely like to go a little high speed, and that's the fun of it. I mean, these things. I built single family houses for years, kind of before the treehouse thing started really picking up for me. I went right into doing single family stuff, and I would find myself bored by the time I was framed up, right? And it just on and on. And so these things, at least for a personality like my own, these tree houses, the scale of them, it's so satisfying, because even the fancier ones, we just wrapped one in New Canaan, Connecticut, and it was 6 weeks all in, but it's got tile around the fireplace, and it's got incredible wiring for all the new stuff, and it's complicated, a very complex treehouse, and we're done in 6 weeks, beginning to end.
Okay, so the design work takes some time, but then the construction, sounds like you're saying, moves fairly quickly once you finally get on the boots on the ground.
Yeah, and that's typically a crew that might be as little as 4, but typically 6. We don't go much more than 6 guys on a job with the scale of it. It's just, you'd be on top of each other too much. So that's about the typical length of a construction project. But yeah, design can be, design is such a beautiful thing, because you can spend a lot of time with it and get to know the property. Like, that's another thing that is a joy when you have the time to properly locate something, set it, considering all the factors, and that when you have time to do that, you can really make something sing. But I've had 2 hours on site many times and said, "Okay, here's where we go."
Yeah. So you have, I was looking, you have like 2 or 3 architects on staff that just do design work?
We do. We have We actually have 3 at the moment, and myself, I hate to admit it, but I get it to 60%. I always say 60%. Here it is, and I think it's 100%, but it's really only about 60% when they find all the problems and they iron out all the things. And then what about over here? Oh yeah, well I thought, well, yeah, it takes time.
Well, it's the concept. It's the idea. You're the idea guy, and then they flesh out how to make it all work. That's a good team.
In fairness, though, too, I give a lot of blank slate stuff to Daniel's our lead architect there, and he deserves to have a blank canvas, of course. So it's funny. I love this, as you can see. Design is one of my favorite things, and yet I've got employees I got to keep busy. So a lot of times I'm just kind of like, well, I guess you can have it.
I understand. I have a degree in landscape architecture, and I've specialized just in outdoor living spaces for decades. But it's the fun of coming up with the idea, solving and creating the dream of somebody's setting. So
it's often fun too when you see this in what you've been doing, and that is trying to capture the vision of the client, and I think you can see through our website that there's somebody that loves Frank Lloyd Wright. Okay, well, we'll do a Frank Lloyd Wright style treehouse, but then there's another one that likes the green and green, so you get that more arts and crafts. And I'm just a conduit, and I think you are in your landscape business probably to a degree. I don't know, but
100%, yes, sir.
So I don't know. I like that part of it, because you're kind of a chameleon, and you can turn whatever color you've got to turn just to make sure that you're getting the dream captured, right?
That's the fun of it. That some people are like, well, I have a certain style, and I'm like, well, and then you're limited. So if you get to be the chameleon, as you said, you get to go all kinds of different places and do all kinds of different things, and it's just never boring. So do you guys do work outside of the United States?
We do. In fact, one of the fun things that just happened, I was aware of it, but Daniel, lead architect, and Daryl, who's been with me for 25 years already, I can't believe it, just got back from Zimbabwe.
Oh, what? Okay.
Yeah. I was like, wait, these things happen. It comes across your desk. There's a possibility of somebody in Zimbabwe, and I go, that sounds great. And that was, I remember now, because I said, why don't you guys do that one? That sounds like too far away. I'm busy right now. Well, they just got back, and the client, my daughter who does the books, I was like, well, how did that work? And she said, well, $58,000 is how it worked. Like, wow, they paid $58,000 to have them come to Zimbabwe? That they did.
Yeah, well, you want the right people to do the right job. You got to get them there. So, but that's cool.
I'm impressed with those guys. Daryl and Daniel, thank you for that, and Emily. But yeah, fun. They just got back Saturday, so I haven't been downloaded. I think they're wrecked. I'll find out how it all went. Probably tomorrow, I hope.
Yeah.
So this podcast is directed to the homeowner, and there might be homeowners out there that are going through a process right now, maybe building a treehouse, and it's maybe not through y'all. And we talked about y'all don't want to cut corners, and we talked about how your trees got killed. So how does a homeowner know, like, okay, they're doing something wrong that could kill the tree? Is there any like common themes, or?
Well, in terms of protecting the trees that are the ones that you might want to have host a treehouse someday, is this root compaction is what the arborists talk about a lot. If you're running equipment over the root flare, say the drip line of the tree, you want to protect those small roots around most trees. I mean, some trees there's no problem at all with root compaction. I was stunned in Central Park in New York City just a week ago. I was taking pictures of the exposed roots of these fabulous trees that seem to be doing really, really well. And, thousands of people are trampling all over them. But, so some trees do fine. But, if you're talking about trying to, like, let's be careful with the trees that we want to build in, then I would say just kind of cordon off the drip line of these trees. But, it's also picking the right tree. And as I said earlier, I think a lot of, lots of help with arborists, a good arborist, which are all over the country, can help guide you if you're not really clear on which trees are the longer living type trees, or the ones that you might end up investing a lot of effort in building your tree house. You want to make sure they're in good shape, and then also the conditions that they're in. You might want to make sure that it's got a good draining soil, or there's a lot of things to consider here. But so I don't want to overwhelm anybody, because I think the overall answer is almost within you. You go into the trees and you see, oh, this one looks really healthy, and this one, it is, and it's probably the right tree. You of course inspect and see if there's some of that damage, like somebody maybe years ago hit that with your excavator, whatever that kind of terrible moment was. But trees are quite resilient too, so they can often come back. Like they patch, they fix, they ram's horn around those wounds, and they try to close up that bark there, and they're sometimes successful. And a lot of trees, extremely resilient.
So if someone doesn't have the perfect tree, do y'all ever build like support structures or towers of some
Sure.
kind? Okay.
Sure, we do that. Sometimes the dream exceeds the ability of the trees to hold it. So we'll push over here and put a post down for the bathroom or what have you. There's often in the style of building that we've really gravitated, as I said earlier, to the bigger tree houses, and they're substantial. I mean, 350 square feet is on the small end of what we're doing these days. They're more often 650 to some more than that. I mean, we did a 2,700 square foot treehouse in Bandera, Texas. That is quite something. Trees really do move, and that's why, I say I like to be down in the lower quarter of the tree, as I think about that often when I'm looking at them and going, is that the right height? Quarter of the tree, and it's generally seems about right.
Yeah.
That 10 to 12 feet is a sweet spot, I think, for height.
Oh yeah.
So one thing I did notice on your website is you do have like a store for DIY people that are doing this. Is that correct? I mean, what does that have for somebody if they're looking to build their own tree house?
Well, this is all my daughter, Emily Nelson, is remarkable. She's a dynamo and has 2 little kids, or grandkids, and still is growing this DIY side of the business. So it's Nelson Treehouse and Supply. I concentrate on the tree houses, but Emily was charged with the e-commerce side of the business maybe 10 years ago now, and it started out as mostly hats and T-shirts for the television show, but we quickly we'd hoped that there was a market for the hardware, and that is 95% of what she's selling now, and it runs the gamut. So we can, there's a lot of education in selling people treehouse hardware. We want them to understand the forces here, which can be quite considerable. So there's a part of our website that does more of the education. There's a treehouse building guide that goes through step by step. This sort of, as we started with the idea of a treehouse, and then we kind of show you through the installation of the hardware and creating of platforms and that kind of thing. So the hardware is what we sell a lot of, and Emily, just this, it's all tax time right now. So it may be a little crass, but Emily sold over $1 million of software last year. I mean, what am I saying? Software, hardware, hardware.
Gotcha.
Awesome.
So this is mostly our tree fort hardware, which is the smaller version of the stuff you see on the bigger tree houses. We have the heavy limb, we've got the standard limb, and these are bolts that go into the side of the tree and then hold up those beams, right? So our heavy limb, we tested at Washington State. In a Doug fir, our heavy limb, our biggest piece of hardware, was tested up to 50,000 pounds before basically the fibers of the tree started to crush, and the engineers deemed it as failure at 50,000 pounds. Well, an engineer will only give you a safety factor of, say, 2.5, 3x. You can go and show that heavy limb could support a treehouse, and that point could support up to 20,000 pounds, maybe thereabouts. But then the hardware that we've been selling a lot of is that backyard style, the mom and dad tree fort, as we're calling it, and we've got hardware that suits that purpose, and that's really cooking right now, especially in the spring when people start getting excited about their treehouse projects.
So is there a treehouse season where it's busier than others?
It's right now. People are planting their tree houses. When you start seeing the buds coming out on the trees, all of a sudden Emily gets very busy, and it's quite something. She does it through Shopify, and so she's a digital native, it seems, even at 34, but she keeps sending me pictures of her sales, and it's just so fun. She's so excited about what's cooking right now. The things are just jumping in the world of DIY treehouse building.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah. I'm wondering, so do y'all do just, because it seems like y'all have a good niche of designing and then building it. Are there people that come to you and they just want your design and then they try to build it on their own? How does that work?
Great question. There's only a little bit of that, but
Okay.
we've done plenty of designs that could carry on if it does carry on. I mean, this is it's such an interesting business, and maybe like a lot of others, where we'll say, okay, if you're serious, the first thing I'll do is a site visit, and the site visit costs X number of dollars, but you're not committing to anything more than that. And then the concept design, and we'll usually charge somebody 5% of a proposed budget. Like if you have a $500,000 treehouse budget, you might have $50,000 as 10%. So you might have $25,000 in a concept design, and you can stop there. So if you want to carry on, and it's sort of a la carte. So people that want to have me draw their treehouse are investing quite a bit in that, and if it's a successful sales job and they do the job, then 99% of them we're sending our crew to build.
Okay.
There are those that stop right there and say, okay, I've got my plans, I'm happy. Maybe in fact, I know a few of them that have done exactly that. They've gone off and built it themselves.
Yeah, we've had that happen too, and sometimes it turns out good, sometimes it turns out terrible. We don't know because they don't deal with us.
I have a question. So have you had many people incorporate? I mean, my background for 20 years was just swimming pools. And I did the outdoor living stuff as well. But now today it's all over. Anything outdoors is basically what we're working on. And have you had people incorporate like a pool slide, like I was talking about, in with a treehouse?
I am so sorry to say that we have not done that yet.
Oh, wow.
No way.
We could have a first then.
Y'all
huh?
have had hot tubs though. I've seen those.
Been hot tubs. There's been talk of slides into the pool, but there was one guy in Louisville, Kentucky, that was all hot to trot, and then COVID, and that was the end of it.
Huh.
But no slides into pools yet. But geez, there should be.
Or
No.
zip lines,
Yeah. So, well, you must have a lot of zip lines out of tree houses as an exit route.
There are, but we don't do zip lines. We were specifically told by our insurers that you do not build zip lines.
That makes sense. Yes.
We've dealt with zip lines on a personal level, so that makes total sense.
Yeah, we would go backpacking and bring the zip line with us, and we've had some fiascos in the wilderness with zip lines.
I can imagine.
Oh yeah.
So you're backpackers. You guys go. I love backpacking. I still do it.
We've been going up into southwestern, Pagosa Springs, Durango,
Wiminuche.
the Wiminuche Wilderness there in the southwest corner. Been going in there for 50 years.
So I took an outward bound class in the San Juan Range in 1980.
Yeah.
So not too long ago.
Well, I was in there at that time as well. Who knows? We might have been in the wilderness at the same time. So
cool. Beautiful area.
I did instead of outward bound, I did through Knowles, which is a similar school.
Oh, sure.
I did Knowles up in Wyoming in '85 for I was out backcountry for 6 weeks. So that was a lot of fun. Anyway.
That's so good. Yeah, Knowles was hardcore. Outward Bound was a little lighter, I think.
But they're both great programs. So anyway,
where I've been going. My dad took me up into the Sierras in 1988, and that's where I go. I kind of go into that Kings Canyon. Yosemite's great, but it's so full of people. I generally look for those places where you're in solitude. So. If you haven't been up in the Sierras, but I have a feeling you have.
Trey was born in Northern California, so yes, I lived out between Sacramento and Napa for 12 years.
Great!
And so there was a place up in Northern California, which a lot of people don't even know that exists because they think San Francisco is as far north as the state goes, and. There was some awesome backpacking country up there, almost to Oregon. So anyway, but
great.
I remember what I was going to ask you. So when people invest quite a bit of money into something, they typically want to know about the warranty, right? And this makes sense with like cars and like custom houses, custom pools, custom tree houses. I have no idea how does that even work with the warranty process.
That's funny because I don't think about that much either. I think like we don't build a lot of tree houses, bottom line. I mean, we might do a dozen a year, something like that. And they're all like our kids in a way. And so I just feel like we'll always take care of them. And I get very little calls to say, hey, can you come and work on this? And it's interesting that way because I feel like they all have lifetime warranties, but I don't get many calls, and then B, I love checking up on them too. So, learning what we can from where we were, how the trees respond is the main thing. And so I guess the straight answer is that we probably have the same kind of warranty that you'd have on a house, right? Is it a year of
repair
and such?
Yeah, wear and tear. Yeah. Okay. And that's good. I mean, wow. Yeah.
Well, I love going back. So we have a project in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and I go back there every year. And it's only been up since actually it opened right the first year of COVID in 2020. And it's only been 5 years. And I was there last summer, and I'm amazed at how they're poplars that are growing so quickly. So I'm monitoring that a lot, and I'm learning too a lot. You go, oh, well, poplars grow quicker than I thought. Okay, well, how's this gonna work in 20 years? And that'll be Henry and Charlie that have to deal with that, I think, my sons.
So you mentioned earlier, there's certain woods. Is there certain trees that you don't want to build in because they're too soft, or
there are, yeah, there plenty, I'm sure. Cottonwoods are, all over the place. And cottonwoods in the Northwest here, they grow to enormous sizes. I mean, 3 feet through is common, and they're 100 feet tall, and they will drop a branch the size of, Arnold Schwarzenegger's leg, and it's in the middle of the most still, calm, beautiful summer days, and it's like a shotgun blast, and then that thing is coming down, and it's horrifying to imagine if you were on your treehouse deck there. So avoid cottonwoods. Again, our alders here, the western red alder is a very short-lived tree. They tend to come right in after the common clear cut up here, and then that puts some nitrogen back in the soil pretty quickly, and so they live short periods of time and become nutrients. There's a lot of trees that are more kind of, I'm trying to think of examples when I was a kid, like the catalpa. They've got those big long bean stalks, and the branches kind of shed almost like a celery, or
Right.
there's trees that I think intuitively you're going to look at and go, wait, this, versus those that you go, wow, this is one of those, a live oak, or a cypress, a beautiful mature cypress, or Doug fir, as I said earlier, my favorites. There's some great hemlock trees out there. The Northwest hemlock is not a great tree. It seems like they're susceptible to some root rot around here with the damp weather, but the cedars, talk about living well in damp weather. Cedars love the western red cedar here. The redwood, what a great tree, although they grow, talk about adding wood every year. Those guys can put on a lot of wood and mess around with your tree houses, in a few years.
Well, and there's a lot of mass up there, up in the air. That's for sure. They can certainly grow tall.
Have y'all ever run into like the bark beetles or wood boring beetles? Yeah. Because
yeah. In Alaska, there was a big outbreak. I did a treehouse in 1995 for Gus Gunther, one of a great character, and we knew that it was in the area because the beetle kill can take out great swaths of the forest, and that's been going on for a long, long time. In fact, my dad told you he went to forestry school. I was looking at one of his old books, and they were talking about in Colorado, the beetle kill that would just, it was almost like clockwork. Every 17 years or something, it would show up somewhere, and it, in the case of our treehouse in Alaska, it killed 3 of the 4 trees that were holding up Gus's treehouse. So that was sad. There was another one in Monroe, Louisiana, that succumbed to some bark beetle. So yeah, it's out there, and that's, here I love this whole world of tree houses, but there's an absolute, wait a minute, trees don't last forever. My argument to that is that no, there is no argument. Of course they don't, and yet can it last for 25, 35 years, something like that, if you're in a good tree? Heck yeah. You've got to maintain it, just like you maintain your house. Clean off the deck, make sure you're not having hot spots show up on wood, because wood doesn't last long when it's wet. So do some good work with your flashing and your waterproofing, and sweep all those extra leaves off, and you should be able to last 30 years easily in a good tree.
Yeah. I think the beautiful thing about, and nothing lasts forever that we make these days. Homes won't last forever either. So it's just how you treat it and the quality of craftsmanship. And then also luck comes into play. You can't control nature.
Yeah. If you're in a little microburst, that treehouse might get sucked right up into the atmosphere.
Yeah, that's the, tornado alley. You got to watch out for, some of the stuff that happens in some parts of the country around us. But so if you were to describe a feature project, could you tell us how this project started and the process through it and the end result and timing and that type of thing? Can you walk us through one?
Sure. I think this last one that we've just wrapped up on Saturday before last in Connecticut is a good example, because I remember October. I I get a phone call. We have a great lady who is the gatekeeper, so to speak. And so if you come through to Pete for a phone consultation, I'll get on the phone with you and talk about the dream and the process. And so what I say, and I mean, it usually takes about an hour to get through things, and then sometimes it takes about 10 minutes when the person says, yeah, don't worry, just come. And so the way I describe it is that, okay, we're gonna get on the phone and talk about what it is exactly that you have in mind, and then the way that I had talked about it a little earlier here is that, it's a kind of a la carte thing. You want to have a site visit. That's my recommendation. Is I don't want to do this over FaceTime. I just don't. So it's a certain amount to get me to your place. Daniel can come to your place, or Daryl, as I had said earlier. There's options. Pete charges a little more. I've discovered that sometimes, I'm being brought to Santa Barbara for lunch instead of a real project. So not interested in that. I want to make sure that they are serious people about what they're going to create, and we're serious about building them. So if we get into that phone call, we're going to talk about cost of site visit, cost of the concept drawing. And again, you don't have to build this. If you want to just sort of look at what's possible, I can create a concept drawing for you that would be quite detailed. And if we didn't go to permit stage with engineering and all the construction documents that go with that, we can build right off of that concept. We could take that to our shop, prefabricate everything, and then ship it to the site and bring the carpenters in and build off that concept. No problem. It's a detailed concept with elevations, and we don't necessarily model it because, as I said, I draw by hand, and so I'll give you elevations. But and certainly part of the package, if you go further into the package, and again, do you want to get a permit set? Engineering's involved. That's going to cost probably another 5% or so of the overall project budget. So if we go through the design phase where everybody's happy with the design, it's been engineered, in theory, it goes off to the building department to get permitted, then, I guess I would back up to say that in this, in the planning, there's a whole lot of contract stuff, like budget. So what I would ask people, and it's a tough question, but when we're talking on that phone that first time, I mean, do you have a reasonable budget? And Elaine, the gatekeeper, has already figured out what this is. Everybody fills out a questionnaire. I think when Elaine gets them on the phone, it's because they've filled out their questionnaire that's on the website, and we do have an idea of what their budget is, of course. So I confirm their budget size, and then when we get into the final phases of the design, we're checking on that budget size all the time. Like, if they wanted to spend $500,000, I don't want to draw a $600,000 treehouse. So how are we doing? And part of that, the cost of that design is going to be a rough order of magnitude budget. So, by the time we're ready to submit this thing to the building department, it will also have, not just the plans, but a proposed budget. It would be, that sometimes there's some engineering that needs to be done, and we do have a little bit of a, let me say that most of our jobs are just fixed bid. They go so quickly that we don't do time and materials. Now, that's not to say we don't do time and materials, because we have, and we're fine with that, I would say. But what happens is, we're there for 6 weeks on the outside. We're usually there for about 4 or 5 weeks. So we should know how much this thing's going to cost, especially once we've got it designed. So fixed bid has been worked out. The payment's been worked out, how it all works. Again, maybe it'd be a little crass. We're asking for 60% of the cost of this thing before we're even on your job site. when we show up and the crew is there and your materials have arrived, we do another 15% that comes to us on arrival. Halfway point, we get 15% more. I know I'm going into some detail here, but why not? So by the time we're halfway done with your treehouse, we're 90% paid. You've got 10% to hang on to make sure that we do what we say we're going to do, finish it. And then in theory, the lead carpenter comes home with that 10% check. Now that doesn't usually happen because there's lots of things to do. And like this job in Connecticut, no, we're hanging out there for that 10%, probably for another month. I don't know. We'll see.
Punch out details. But on the front end, you prefabricate a lot of the things in your shop. So when you show up with materials, it's just not a stack of lumber. You've cut lumber, and it's so it's somewhat, you've got the pieces to put together. So that's why things go together so quickly.
Exactly. I mean, we'll spend sometimes, in a typical project, we might be 2 weeks here in the shop, and that's my son Henry runs the shop. It's really fun to think that you father-son team. So 2 years ago, my son Henry was charged with being the shop guy. New, he's in charge. Hire, fire, he does whatever he's got to do, and he's 32. And boy, I'm so proud of him. He's doing such a great job, and learning all the time. I mean, he'll take our drawings and put them into shop drawings and SketchUp because he's building those walls, and he's making sure that he doesn't build those walls in the shop and take it apart. He sends them like, these are the walls. Math doesn't lie. They will be put together in the field and they will work. And so far, so good.
That's a great process.
But yeah, there's a big chunk of work. It's a big chunk of work. But I would say that by the time, you know this too, I would guess, but that big chunk of work where you're framing all those walls and they're plywoods on them, but when that day comes where you put them all up, it's just a big day and it looks like you're almost done, right? No,
yeah,
might be 30%.
But it's just like a house. When you frame it, all of a sudden it has a life. Yeah. Now you can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's a lot of work still to be done at that point in time. All the little details that make things work, and so you have electrical and water in a lot of these projects. So you have lighting and heating and air conditioning, and wow, that's amazing. How do you hide it all?
It's pretty easy. The chase, if you will, is coming down somewhere strategic, and it'll we'll fill it up with the the water in, the effluent out, and power, and when you're in a woodsy setting, that chase is really just another stem that's coming out of the forest floor.
Gotcha. Oh, creative. Okay.
That makes sense. So
yeah, and it's a good chase too. The headroom under there, because a lot of people ask just that, like, what about plumbing? And the headroom under these things is pretty good.
Well, actually, you must have some pretty tall ceilings, because Trey saw that you did one for Shaquille O'Neal. Is that right?
We did Shaquille O'Neal. That was so fun. Oh my gosh, that guy, he's such a badass. Such a badass. He is so remarkably together, I don't know. I just, when I met him, and this is 2018, so it's been a little while, but he just is so enormous and chiseled, too. But those clear eyes, big, he looks down at you and you're just like, oh my gosh, this guy, he is a special man. And he'll hug you. He was so excited at the end. He picked me up. I was standing in front of this 9-foot door we built for him, and he looked at it and he said, Pete, I've been given a lot of things, and he was given this treehouse. Animal Planet paid for it. He said, I've never been given anything as beautiful as this. And he grabs me and picks me up so my head is down, is under his lips for a good smooch on the top of my head. And put me back down.
That's awesome. So you guys had the series for 11 seasons, and then I've one of my friends is Anthony Archer Wells, who was the pool master for Animal Planet.
And I love that character.
And he was just like, this was great to do, but this was a real wear on me. And so I could only do 2 seasons of it. And I had to walk away from it just because it was a tough thing to do. And so he's still building like crazy. He's 80 years old now, doing the ponds and everything like that. So I imagine life is easier without a television crew in y'all's back pocket all the time.
Yeah, no doubt. I loved it, I have to say, because they really did crack the whip, and we needed to have the whip cracked on us to figure out how to make money doing this, really. I mean, truth be told, before TV came around, we were always wondering why we were without any money. I mean, it was a lifestyle in a funny way. I have to admit that I'm not maybe the businessman that I wanted to be or imagined myself to be. But I just love the creation and the art and the joy of it all. And so before TV, I think I was kind of absorbed more in trying to create successful projects from the standpoint of like keeping them in the tree and keeping customers happy and me happy and everybody, it's a fantasy job, right? And I think we were a little more in the fantasy world with it before we had to crank out 2 of these a month. And yes, it was heavy duty and it was really hard. And I drank a lot of coffee. I stopped drinking alcohol. That was probably the best thing to do. And so I just I thrived. And when they said no more, I was kind of incredulous, like, what? We're done? They said, well, yeah, there were over 100 episodes, and I think that the model for the networks is if they have 100 episodes of something, they can just keep
running reruns.
And that's what they're doing. Thankfully, we do not get residuals or whatever you would call those, unfortunately, with reality TV, as your dear pool master friend probably told you. We do not get checks from Animal Planet anymore.
Yes. Well, you get advertising, so
we sure do. Oh man, we're so lucky for that. And we knew that. We knew that that's what you're going to get.
I'm sure that's a blessing. So.
Oh yeah.
It is.
So what's next for Nelson's Treehouses?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because I've been thinking about it too quite a bit, and we have I hope a legacy company. My 2 boys are in it. My daughter runs it essentially, and I'm still very much a part of this and enjoy it. But I feel like my role is more sharing the knowledge. Like I could see myself. I'm 62. If I'm so lucky to have another 30 years of being on this earth, I think I'd like to spread this information as much as I can, the good information. The trees are responding so wonderfully, and as I say, every part of this is joyful. Looking for the trees, imagining what it might look like, your treehouse, and then creating it and going out and finding these materials. A lot of treehouse stuff is scrounged, and so I have a secondary thing that I've been doing a lot, and that is, you can see behind me, the wood up on my ceiling is some old Doug fir that came from the docks of Oakland in California, and I have a collection of scavenged materials that is up not far from here, that is a little bit out of control. I mean, it's beautiful, it's incredible material, and so anyway, this idea of using these neat materials, maybe scrounged or Craigslisted, and you create your treehouse. It's always a joy, right? And then you'll find that, oh, your friends will want to come over and help you. Everybody wants to help you when you're building your treehouse. So promoting this and essentially getting people into nature, which is my main mission here, is is like something I think I can do for the rest of my life. Just anytime I get a chance to talk to people like yourselves, or down in Texas, I got to talk to my buddy's classroom about what I'm doing, and I just want to share with people that this works. It's a viable form of architecture now. It's proven. It couldn't be better. And what happens as a byproduct is we might get more people to fall in love with nature, and thereby preserve it.
Yeah. Well, that's an important thing today.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
And it's such a easy form, I think, because like instinctively, like as a kid, like you go out of the forest as a boy, you go out of the forest and you find some trees and some sticks with your friends, you play around, and you always end up building a tree fort of some kind. So when you can get vertical up there with your dad or someone that actually knows how to build, and then just expanding on that idea and make, combining the outdoors with luxury, and yeah, you're working with fire for sure.
I'm so privileged to be this person in that role. I think of myself as an ambassador in a way, and I feel so privileged to be that person. So I want to share good information and as much of it as I can to get people to really consider this, because yeah, you'll create something that is so much more than just a treehouse. You'll have great memories.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no matter how you cut it, except for the damn permits.
Those cities, they're the bane of a lot of us today.
Oh, they are.
I admire it lately, and this is kind of fun, but lately we've been doing more work for people that are just fed up. We've been in these lines for sometimes many years to get these things done. And a lot of the people we work for are used to getting things done, and they can't get it done. And they just say, screw it, let's just build it, come what may. And so more power to them. I mean, it's really tough. I feel bad for all those poor people that are in there trying to process these permits, and they don't have enough people helping them, and nobody's interested in being that person, it feels like, anymore.
Well,
and I'm all over the country.
The challenge is you're bringing something to them that they have a hard time wrapping their head around, and that's not an easy situation by any means, I'm sure. So
exactly right.
I appreciate the sharing here today.
The insight. Thank you for coming on the podcast. It means a lot.
And
my pleasure.
I think it's really ironic our paths have been in similar directions. So, who knows, if my dad had put brick, flooring down, maybe we'd be partners in the Pacific Northwest now.
Yeah. Funny to think. And the fact that you live in Tom's River, that's crazy.
Yes. So yeah, the Pineys were a great place to grow up as a kid. So
do you, okay, because this is one of my earliest memories. I was 3, we moved to northern New Jersey, a place called Ridgewood in Bergen County.
Right.
So I left Tom's River when I was 3, but when you say Pineys, I remember we would go out to the dump, and there were black bears crawling all over the dump in the Pine Barrens, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, we had everything. I mean, there was a subdivision right behind me, which they ended up with a huge development. It was called Holiday City, I think is what it was. And it was a retirement village, and they bought that land, and then they didn't develop it for a while. And there was a blueberry farm that was sat there empty for a while. But I mean, we had raccoons and deer and, bobcats and everything in our backyard. I mean, that was, it was just right across the railroad tracks from our house. I mean, it was just, woods. And it was, like I said, it was a great place to grow up as a kid. And we had forts in the woods and stuff like that until they.
Who would have thought? New Jersey, right? Wilderness. Pine Bear.
It's most people think of Newark when they think of Jersey.
Yeah.
And that's the farthest thing from the truth. I mean, so, I took my wife back, 7-8 years ago for the first time. And she's like, this is all just rolling farms and country and, trees and all this kind of stuff. I didn't ever imagine.
Garden State.
It's called the Garden State for a reason. So anyway, but Well, we will look forward to we will look forward to talking to you some more, I'm sure, in the future. But yeah, again, thanks for everything that you shared today, and we'll look forward to some time later.
Before he heads out, can I ask
that's
a couple
right.
questions?
I forgot. Trey's got questions for you.
Just quickly,
Right.
the first one might be the longest one. We usually do a question called Pooled True Crime, but I'm just want to change it up and do Treehouse True Crime. Has there
Mhm.
been any situation like that, like Treehouse True Crime, in your perspective?
I think the true crime part might be we touched on it a little earlier, like if you're not, if you're overlooking someone else's little private Idaho, backyard or something with your treehouse, you want to really make sure that those people are cool with your plans.
Okay.
Because if you just go ahead and charge forward with your ideas and don't consider that neighbor, then you could open up trouble for everybody. And so I'd say that's the true crime of if you're not communicating with your very neighbor when you do something like this, you might be setting yourself up for a problem.
Yeah, perfect. We've had a pool where it was too high and the treehouse could see us. Remember that? Yeah.
Well, I was hoping we could talk about Scott Skurlock, who's a famous bank robber that lived in a treehouse here in the Northwest. And I was thinking, oh, crime, treehouse crime? Oh, yeah. I got to visit that and take pictures of it, but he was cornered in the backyard of Ravenna here, not too far from where I am, in 1989, and that was the end of the bank robber, Scott Skurlock, the treehouse bank robber.
Okay. And then the three last easy questions I always ask every guest, just to get to know them a little bit better, would be your favorite movie, your favorite book, and then say your favorite meal.
Oh, and where do you want to go for inspiration?
Yes.
Okay, favorite movie. I just saw the one that was voted Best Picture, Honora. Have you seen that? It's a long one, but it's really something. So
I've heard
I'm
of
going
it.
to
I've not seen it.
Current Times. Honora is my favorite movie right now. My favorite book. Okay, so a design book called The Pattern Language. And it's kind of a tome, but it's all the unwritten rules of architecture that, like if you go into a room and it's got two walls with windows, that feels a whole lot better than a room with one wall of windows. So that it's sort of all the corollaries, the rules of architecture that are sort of unwritten. It's called, I'm sorry, A Pattern Language, not The Pattern Language.
By Christopher Alexander, I believe.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. I gotta check that out.
Great resource. And then what was the last one? Meal?
Yeah, meal.
Oh, man, I'm an Italian food guy.
Pasta.
Would be, a good pizza. Like I told you I was in New York last week and I finally found the pizza. I don't have much to choose from in the Pacific Northwest. So there were a couple of experiences, one in Connecticut and one in New York, that were just exquisite. Pizza.
Was
my
the
favorite.
Connecticut one New Haven?
It was close to New Haven. It was Pepe's, Frank Pepe's.
Okay.
He's got quite a few of them. This one was in Newbury, I think. And then the one in New York was Loci, I want to say, on Canal. Oh man. Oh. Mouth watering. And roof of the mouth burning. That's the thing. You always come away with like, oh dang, I got that too quick.
Yeah.
Is there a favorite place to go for inspiration?
The High Sierras.
Okay. Yeah.
Consistent. I like it. Well,
yeah.
Thank you again, man, for coming on. It means a lot to us.
Oh, you're too kind. And thank you. And apologize for the mix up of time, but we're all good now.
We're all great. So, well, you have a good evening.
Okay. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it too.
Likewise.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.